Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wide Open. I'm your host, Ashlyn Harris. What have I been doing lately? I've been traveling a ton. I've kind of gone on this little travel tour in the last few weeks. I've been to South Africa for a safari. I've been to Florida to see my family. I've been to LA to see my friends and to work. And now I am back in New York to spend some time building what the next few months are going to look like. I'm really looking to Women's History Month, and I have a lot of things planned, and I'm speaking a lot at different conferences and summits about the progress of women and business and sport. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm always so inspired by the women in my circle, and it's important to choose wisely because a lot of the people I choose to surround myself are really serving, the community and serving women and their family. And I want to make sure that those type of principles are always instilled in my children and the way I move. And those things are important to me. The political climate clearly has been really difficult lately. I mean, for everyone, but especially women, especially, queer people. There's just so many things at stake. Women's body autonomy is at risk. Your right to choose what you want to do with your body and how you move in the world. All of these things right now are at stake and in jeopardy. And it's so important for us as women who are such powerful cultural leaders with big voices to really fight this. And we know how powerful we are, and that's why we're trying to be silenced at every turn. And it's our job to not get tired. We have been here before. We have to roll our sleeves up because we all have younger kids who are looking up to us to do the right thing. Silence is not going to push us forward. I really believe this genuinely. The only people right now who are going to save our democracy in this country are women. And we have to get mad and we have to act and we have to have our voices heard. I'm so excited to talk to Tarana Burke because she just has lived such a rich life of service. She chooses to do it over and over and over again. And just sharing oxygen and space with her is motivating to continue to fight and continue to do right by women and to continue to use your platform to speak on things that matter. And right now, we need her voice more than ever. So being able to talk to her about what she's been able to do, it's for me, it's an educational piece. It's an infectious piece to inspire me to continue doing what I'm doing. But the fight is never over. And she embodies that and continues to show up. And it's powerful. It's so powerful. Today's guest is someone whose name carries weight, not because she asked for it, but because the world needed what she had to say. Tarana Burke is the founder of the Me Too movement, but more importantly, she's a listener, a protector, a truth teller, and a Black woman who has spent her life standing in the fire so others wouldn't have to stand alone. Before Me Too became a global reckoning, it was a quiet offering. 2 words meant to say, I see you, I believe you, and you are not alone. And like so many movements led by Black women, it was born from care, from community, and from lived experiences long before it was ever recognized by power. Today, we're talking about her life, the real origins of the Me Too movement, the cost of leading change as a Black woman, and the backlash that often follows bravery, and the moment we're living right now, where women's rights feel fragile, our voices are being challenged again, but we're also talking about hope, about healing, about art, about what keeps her going, and who inspires her today. This conversation is honest, It can be heavy at times, but it is so, so, so necessary. This is Tarana Burke, and this is Wide Open. I was sobbing this morning, so you probably look a lot better than I do. But I feel that, and I lean into that, and I know. I mean, I adopted two children, a black son and a brown mixed little girl, and it's the scariest thing for me right now when you talk about protection strategy, all of these things.
Yeah.
It's really, really jarring because I'm like, I will never understand what they're going to have to go through, but I'm going to have to protect them as their mom. So I'm going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have really, really great people around me who get it and can help me do this and keep them safe and teach them the things that need to be taught. And so it's like, all of these things just sometimes feel a little bit more heavy because it's scary. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
No, there is. I think the part for me, though, that's been both interesting and heartening to watch is watching this thing backfire. Like, this evil is not sustainable. I've been saying that for years and years and years. It's not. This is not even about this administration. Like, evil, we've seen all kind of evil throughout time, and we've seen the counterbalance to that and how it's been responded to. And the worse it is, the more cruel people get, the less sustainable it is. And we are, as a society, we're smarter, we're more advanced, we're more learned, you would think, around some things. And so as they are becoming more cruel, there is a way that it is making us as society, right? Like as culture, particularly as in America, as Americans, because there's all kind of evil happening, but just thinking about this country for a moment, it's making people be like, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. This is not even, I may not even like black folks, for real. But now I'm trying to figure out why, because this is weird. Or I don't like immigrants or Mexicans or whatever the thing is. But watching this level of cruelty, I think, is for some, and hopefully it'll keep growing and growing. For more, it's like, people start doing some self-examination.
Yes.
Or at the end of the day, self-preservation.
Yes.
Right? Because you may hate an immigrant, think you hate an immigrant or a queer person or black, whatever the marginalized group is, until you stand shoulder to shoulder with them, and it's really about how you're going to eat. Right? Right? How you going to survive. That changes your perspective a little bit when you have to fight with somebody for the same basic human needs.
Exactly.
So they're gonna keep pushing us to the wrong direction. Sorry,
I feel like no. It's also, the thing that maybe it is the importance of watching it burn to the ground so we can build it back up to the way like it should have been a long time ago. And how long that takes is we got to be ready for the long haul and up for it and roll our sleeves up and not be desensitized to all the things and turn our back and say, well, it's not me. Well, if it can happen to her, it can happen to fucking anyone.
That's the strategy of it all. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have to be thinking strategically, not try all of these ways that people are like, I want to go. Even before, this was in I want to say about 2 years ago. So this was not even in this administration. I had this real come to Jesus moment, if you will, this awakening around, so many things were happening in my life. I had tremendous loss, like one death after another. And then there was all this stuff happening in the world, what have you. And I remember saying to my girlfriend, I've been praying all of this time when I've been thinking about, what my prayers are, how my focus is. I've been saying I want to get back. If we could just get back, if we could just get back to a central place, right, where it's not so bad, then maybe that'll energize me to work more. And I literally woke up one day and I was like, there's no back. This is what survival, being a survivor, teaches you. And I sometimes separate that from the rest of my life. And until I converge those things, I'm like, oh, I have to lean into We are in survival mode right now.
Yes.
All of us are
Yes.
surviving collectively. So we have
Some
something
better than others.
some better than others, but that's the point, right? Some
Yeah.
better than others because they've been through some shit. Excuse me, they've been through
Yeah.
things, right?
No, yes.
And so when I think about what I've actually been through as an individual in my life and what it took for me to survive, it's the same thing that it's going to take for me to survive. It's going to say same things it's going to take for us to survive. And some of that looks like realizing that I will never be that person. I'm never going to, who I was before I was assaulted, who I was before the abuse, I'm never going to be that person again. I'm never going to be in that moment in time either. But what I left there, I may have left that person behind, but the foundation of who I am is still here. And I think that humanity that we were just talking about, the things that are pushing people together, is the foundation of what's there to build back from. But all the stuff in the middle, all the bullshit that we filled our bodies and our minds and our hearts with, a lot of that has to go. And it's not about what party you in, because there's a lot of crazy liberal people who need to readjust and rethink and do some self-assessment. And certainly people who are far right, whatever your ideology is, everybody needs to do some reassessment and think about how we build back better.
Yes, I agree. Self-reflection will definitely be key. And with that, I do want to dive in because I think everyone knows you for the Me Too movement. Yeah. I want to peel back some layers because I do, clearly I took a deep dive in your life and I've been following you for quite some time, and you've given hope to so many people and permission and safety and to not feel alone. But there's so much to your story before that. You've been advocating for 25 plus years on all the injustice that goes on in marginalized communities, women, you name it. And I'm curious, before this movement, there was you. Who was that young girl? What shaped your sense of justice and voice early on for you to want to do this?
I come from a kind of justice-minded family. My grandfather was a Garveyite. He was meaning he for people who don't know what that means, he believed in the teachings of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He believed in Black people and the resilience and brilliance and beauty of what it is to be Black in America and in the world. And he was really clear about me having that same connection and that same knowing. He raised my mom that way, so my mom had it. And so I got this really strong foundation early on. But I also think I get asked this question a lot, and I think there's a part of me that was born with a strong reaction to injustice on any level, right? Not just social justice, but like, that's not fair to that person. I have a really strong reaction to that. So I think some of that is just innate. And then having my family really ground me in history and culture and really deep love and connection and community. I grew up in a very tight-knit community as well, where I watched people take care of each other, where my mom and my dad, my stepdad, they were pillars in that way. Not a lot of money, but very strong. Like my dad was like a moral authority in the community, right?
Yeah.
And I watched that, and a lot of that shaped, just that people come first, right? My stepdad was selfless in a lot of ways. Some people wouldn't. I knew it intimately, but I watched him feed little children who he knew, their parents didn't have. I watched him help people pay their rent. I watched him do a lot of things that was about not putting himself first. He would go outside and pick up the trash in the street. Like, that's how, because he cared about the community. He cared about, like, it was important to him. He was proud of it. So that's how I grew up. I'm from the Bronx. People don't think about the Bronx in that way. When you think about community, you have all of this stuff you saw on TV, but we were multicultural, right? So I grew up around all kinds of culture, ethnicities, different people of different races. And so it was really a love for people. Now, my people, obviously Black people, were at the center of my world and my
Mm-hmm.
concern, but not to the detriment or to the exclusion of anybody else.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where it came from. And then as a teenager, I joined a youth group that just changed everything. It took all of that foundation that I had from my family, and it gave me somewhere to channel it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I had learned all about injustice. I had read all these books. I had all of this historic information, and I had this sort of burning about it. But when I joined the 21st Century Youth Leadership Movement, that was the name of the organization, they said, oh, well, you don't have to wait, right? Like, you are a youth leader only because of your age. You
Mm-hmm.
are a leader because of who you are. And that just shifted everything. It was like, oh, I like to run my mouth. You got the right one. And so
Uh-huh.
they helped me they helped teach me how to take that, all of that desire and the big mouth and the like leadership ability, and channel it
Mm.
into social justice work. And that's where I've been.
Yeah, and I'm curious, how did your identity as a Black woman
Mhm.
inform the way you understood power and harm and responsibility so early in your life?
Well, I watched, again, I grew up in the Bronx,
Yeah.
and in New York in the 70s and the 80s, there was I mean, I think this is always the case, but certainly there was a lot, the power imbalance between like law enforcement and the community, between politicians and the people. It was very transparent. Or
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, the way I was raised, it was made transparent to me,
Yeah.
right? I was made very clear, those messages. And a lot of what my grandfather did, and he was really intentional, was about knowing who I was, not just as a person, but as a Black girl in
Mm-hmm.
this world. And everything sort of centered around that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the reality. This is the reality for you. And so that really informed a lot of how I thought, how I moved through the world. But for some people, it makes them move through the world, um, I'm going to say sort of sheltered and shrink back because you feel like there's no space for girls who look like me, or. But I'm thankful that my mother was the opposite of that, and and taught me very early to take up space because I was
Oh, I
a Black
love that.
girl,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
She was very clear, my granddaddy too, but my grandmother, both, and I should, my grandparents, because my grandmother was definitely, I don't care who you are, what's going on, my children come first, my
Mm-hmm.
voice will be heard. And that got passed on. So I didn't realize that was an anomaly until I got out into the world, and I was like, why are we not talking? Why are we not,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, being a Black woman has informed every part of my life. And I don't feel any way about that. I think some
Mm-hmm.
people want us not to, lean into identity politics and what have you, but my identity is why people know me. It's also why I move through the world the way I do.
Mm.
Right? If I wasn't a Black woman and a Black feminist in particular, I would not have the perspective that I have, and I may not, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I have an understanding that everybody deserves a space. I have an
Mm.
understanding about justice in a particular way. I have an understanding about the way marginalized people are treated, and why the least of these have to get first so that everybody can get what they need. All of that stems from me being a Black woman and a Black
Mm.
feminist.
I know this story, but for our listeners, because it is
Mm.
so profound and so powerful, can you take me back to the moment Me Too began? And it wasn't just a hashtag, it
No.
was a phrase meant to comfort and connect. And I know the story. And I believe you started Me Too in 2006, and something happened. I would love for you, if you're open to talk about, of,
You're talking about heaven.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and how Me Too actually started,
Yeah,
from
there's
the story that you've told, before. But I would love for you to tell a story of how it started for our listeners.
Yeah, so I mean, prior to 2006, I was doing youth leadership work. I actually went to work for 21st Century after college because it was really important for me to give to other young people what was given to me, right? That organization and that work had shaped me. And inside of that, I'd started working with Black girls specifically because I just watched how they were treated differently, you know, and I had like an after school program. And yeah, it was really clear in ways that I hadn't seen before that, oh, the girls need some kind of really direct and special attention. But again, I was working in the South. I was working in Selma, Alabama. So, and I'm saying that for context for people because Dallas County is the county that Selma sits in. It's one of the poorest counties in the nation.
Yeah.
And so this is, in some instances, extreme poverty, wildly under-resourced, right? I mean, just wildly under-resourced as a city and community. And so when you bring all of those elements together, you find all kinds of things, violence for sure, sexual violence definitely. And I kept encountering so many of our girls who were survivors of sexual violence. Yeah. I had no intention of doing that work, of doing this work. It was not, actually didn't even think of it as work to do, right? It wasn't this popular movement happening around it.
It wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing.
It was just, but I had been, well, two things happened. First, I met Heaven. And you have to remember, oftentimes, I'm 52 now. I was 22 when this happened. So, gosh, that's so wild to say out loud, but 30 years ago.
You look great. That's all that matters.
Thank you very much.
The work hasn't aged you, honey.
Oh, man, that's a
what
do
blessing.
They say? Thank God I don't look what I've been through.
That part.
But I'd met this little girl before I'd started this work, before I had a name, hashtag, anything like that, who basically confided in me, right? Because she was in my group, and the message that we had been giving them is, you can trust us. You know, we're here to support you. We are a family, all of these kind of things. And she came to me to tell me that she had, was a survivor of sexual violence at the hands of her mom's boyfriend. And in that moment, when she told me, I had not done any work. I didn't have the language of survivor. I didn't have therapy. I didn't have nothing. I was a blank slate. And what I had done was figure out how to create a persona to protect myself. So the outward perfectionist Tarana, who was a scholarly and athletic and a leader and all of that, was the extent that I had done to protect myself from the little girl who was the survivor, who had been traumatized and molested. And so I didn't deal with that little girl ever, right? I packed her up, put her in a box, and I lived my outward life. And what Heaven did by telling me her story was threaten that. It was the first time that there was a threat in my body. I literally could feel like, no. I don't deal with that part. I don't go to that place, right? And I tell people this all the time. It was my inability to say me too that shifted everything for me.
Wow.
Right? It's like, when you like watching my brain works in animation sometimes. I'm like thinking about characters fighting each other in my mind right now. But it's like watching you fight yourself, because there was a part of me that loved this little girl, loved little Black girls, loved working with them, and knew what the work ahead was, right? Like I think in strategy, like I said. So I knew I could see it, but I didn't understand it, right? And when I'm watching this little girl come to me, and she didn't want all this. She didn't want the bravado. She didn't want the leader. She didn't want the platitudes. She didn't want any of that. She wanted a real person to connect to her just for a moment, to say, I see you and I believe you and I am you. And I didn't have it. And the moment she walked away and kind of was like, you're a liar, right? I could see it in her, she didn't say that, but I could see it in her body, and her face was like, I tried to give you a little bit and you're a liar. The realization for me that I mean, obviously it wasn't in that moment, but what came after that was like, I'm not going to be able to do this work for real until I figure out, first of all, who I am and what this is, right? Until I face this monster.
Mm.
And so I started my own journey of like my healing journey. But I met so many more heavens immediately after, right? So many more. Most of my girls, I'll never forget when we started the program in the school, we had done this work so that we could, there's only one, at the time, there's only one junior high school in Selma. And we had gotten our program, our leadership program in that junior high school. It was me and my best friend at the time. And you know, we're working side by side. We're going to do this leadership program. We had a program called Jewels. Actually, this is the 20th anniversary this year.
Wow.
It'll be 20 years since we started the Jewel program. And, or maybe last year. But anyway, so we start this program. We're working in the school. And we're doing this like, at this point, I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate sexual violence and talk about sexual violence in the work.
Yeah.
And we did this little exercise where we used celebrities to talk about who were survivors and how they survived. And this is Me Too hadn't started as a real thing, but it was workshops that I was trying to do inside the school. Anyway, we thought we don't want people to out themselves as survivors, so we'll just have them like write it on a piece of paper. And at the end of the little workshop we did, we said, you know, if this is something that affects your life, just write Me Too on a piece of paper, or write down 2 things that you learned from this workshop, so that everybody had something to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget us going back to our room and pouring out that, it was in a manila envelope, and poured it out on the bed and just opening Me Too, Me Too, Me Too, one after another. And this is 7th graders, 8th grade. These are little girls. That is when I was really clear. I mean, some other things happened. There was a moment where I feel like the hand of God really came down, not to be super dramatic, and was just like, this is your work.
Yes. This is your calling.
This is it. You can run from it. You can do all the things. Because I was really just like, I don't want to do this. I don't even know what this is, right?
Yeah.
I want to teach young girls to be young women who are leaders. I want them to do well in school. I don't want to do this, whatever this is. But I'm going to tell you, it got to the point where there was no way to do that without doing this first. Mm-hmm. Right? Because even for the girls in the class who were not survivors, who had not had that experience, thankfully, they still needed the information to try to prevent them from ever having that happen in their life. So I had been grounded by the elders who taught me about organizing, by my family, like to believe that community problems deserve community solutions. And so I went to the community and I said, listen, we have a problem at the junior high school.
Yeah.
75% of my girls are raising their hand to say that they've experienced this. And they were like, that sounds like a guidance counselor problem or a parent problem. And I was like, this is our problem. These are our children.
We have to protect them.
We have to. And so it became a movement for me, because movement is what I knew. Right? I was like, this is not going to be done in workshops in the school. This is not going to be done in a classroom. This has to be people moving together who believe that these children need to be safe, that they deserve safety, that they deserve protection, that they deserve a future that's not impeded by the worst moment in their life.
Yeah.
And you know what? We started doing this work. I got really serious, like this is what I want to do. And then I had this is the part I think people get confused, because they think it started on MySpace, but it didn't start on MySpace. I was in the classrooms and in the community first. But MySpace was popular. So we went to MySpace and I made a page, and then the adult women came. And that was the change. That's why, that was in 2006. The adult women survivors came from everywhere.
Everywhere.
And they were like, me too, me too. This happened to me too. And nobody's ever talked about it. And I've never had a place to place this. I've never had. And I said, oh my God, these women need exactly what my girls need.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you what else, Ashlyn. In 2017, when Me Too went viral, it was the same thing. It was survivors of all stripes around the whole world who needed the same thing that those 7th grade girls needed in Selma.
Yep.
Right? You cannot, shame cannot live in the sunlight. We know that, right? Mm-mm. It can't be, it doesn't survive once you shine light on it. And connection also kills shame. Mm. And so people who have been living with this deep shame and this deep fear were suddenly seen and connected. And that's how you sustain a movement. Really, it's people who understand that they are connected to one another, even if it's by trauma.
Yeah, and the burden of holding that alone will always come out sideways. Mm-hmm. And giving someone the ability to say, "I'm with you, and I see you, and I stand next to you," and it's a really, really beautiful thing. Did you ever think in a million years, or imagine it would ever be this big?
Now, I will tell you, I never thought in a million years it would be this. But when I first started Me Too, it's so interesting. I remember, because I wanted to get all these celebrities involved, people who I later met in real life. But at the time, I knew they were survivors. And I thought that Me Too would be the rainbow flag of the survivors, right? Mm-hmm. I thought we would have Me Too stickers that survivors would put on their windows in their cars, and people would know, oh, this is a safe space because a survivor lives here, right? I wanted it to be universal language for how we connected with each other. So I did envision that. That was a part of the vision. I didn't know how to get there. Hashtags weren't a thing, So
exactly.
I thought, oh, if I can get Oprah to wear a Me Too shirt, the world will talk about it. I thought that was the way we got information out. But I could not. One of the biggest lessons I've had in the last 8 years is that I certainly was not dreaming big enough. Oh, I was not. I had what I thought was big dreams, like getting Oprah to wear the T-shirt. That was the biggest I could dream. But having 20 million people simultaneously around the world say we are connected because this happened to me, couldn't even fathom it.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence to me. I do feel this, and I say this, and Sophia and I talk about it all the time. Black women have always been on the front lines of social change, often without protection, without credit, without rest.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Racism.
Yeah.
I mean, in a word, I think that this is such a deeply, 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 it's so deeply entrenched in our country that it's hard to see the leadership and the wisdom and run down the list that Black women have to offer. I think there was a very intentional and systematic devaluing of Black women as human beings that does not allow people to make the leap to say that there's a body of wisdom here. We could point to groups of indigenous people, particularly women, across the board, people in the Latinx community. Like, women largely hold the courage, right? We don't just hold the power, but we hold the courage to activate on the power. I think as human beings, we all have an innate power to move things, to change things, to be connected. Yes. I don't think that differentiates by gender, but I think that what activates power is courage. And women, by and large, particularly Black women, have tapped into that courage. A lot of times for us, it's because we have no other choice, right? It's be courageous, use every gift God gave you, or you won't exist. So we've had to do that multiple times. Again, I think about indigenous women who've had to do that. Their whole entire existence in this country has been about them leaning on their innate power and their connectivity. And so I just think that what racism and patriarchy and sexism and all of those things have done, to every other group of women is always multiplied when you as you could go further and further, down the pigment scale. So yeah, that's just, and it's unfortunate because people miss out on so much
because of the fear. And I think I love the way you say that. And there's such a calmness and safety about you. And there's no question to me why people came to you to feel safe enough to talk about the traumas and the darkness. And you do carry this presence about you where it's pure safety. And I think that is a gift. That is a gift. And it is always our choice what we do with that gift. And how lucky are we that you chose to continue? Because I know the backlash. Not personally. I have read and watched the backlash that has been put on your shoulders, that you've had to carry the weight of this racism and misogyny. And, people are like, this is a witch hunt. To tell the truth about my experience, you're going to minimize that. How do you hold that weight, though? How do you hold that weight?
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can say I have an incredible village of people, incredible community around me that allow me to unload that weight. I'm not a superhero, and I succumb to criticism. I succumb to pressure. I succumb to all kind, hatred, vitriol that I just feel like I don't understand. I feel like one of the most naive moments I had was right after Me Too went viral, and everybody's like, oh, well, the backlash is coming. And I thought, for just a moment, why would there be backlash?
Yeah.
There's just, all people are saying is don't rape people, right? Like, ask permission.
Yeah.
We're just saying it out loud. And it was and I think about it now, and I think about the conversation I had, that specific conversation is like, boy, you were really naive at the lengths that people will go to preserve their power, right? Because that's what sexual violence is about, right? Power and dominance. And so, but for me, the backlash has been, it's hurtful. It's so harmful. But in some ways, it's also, and this may sound weird, it's a little bit invigorating. I gain a little bit every more and more as time goes by. I get more energy from the backlash too. One, because I'm a fighter, right? I think part of that is just me. I think, I don't mind a fight. Yeah. I don't back away from them. I'm not scared. So there's a part of me that's just like, all right. Oh, that's what we doing? We fighting, right?
Like, okay, cool. I'm gonna dig in. Yeah,
I'm gonna dig in, right? I'm 10 toes down. This is where I thrive. But then there's another part of me that's like, the joke's on you, because the backlash, you only would fight against things that you think are successful, right? You only plot and scheme to tear down something that is actually effective. So if there was no backlash, if people weren't thinking about it, then that would mean that we were not making a dent and we weren't relevant.
Yes.
But the backlash proves the relevance, right? Y'all will go to great lengths to make Me Too the villain, or make Me Too inept and ineffective and blah, blah, blah. But we keep watching these things, and I know how to count my wins. People sometimes don't count their wins well. And so that's why they feel defeated. But I'm like, while everybody is, there was a whole bunch of people who were like, they'll become disappointed about the outcome of some big celebrity case. And I'm like, let's put perspective around this. Yeah. We couldn't even get that celebrity in a courtroom 10 years ago. Yeah. You couldn't call their name without a defamation suit that would, sue you out of the existence 10 years ago, right? So the demon is the violence and all the systems that uphold the violence. Yes. We are trying to slay a dragon.
Yes.
So if you cut the toenail off of a dragon, right, that's a win. You are gonna count that as a win, and every time that dragon comes back, I'm coming for another toe. I'm coming for another toe, Because what it may take just to get that toe, people don't even understand what it takes to get that, what
just
looks
that
to
dent,
you.
that crack.
Right. But people who are sitting at home in their little huts, I'm just imagining a whole village now that's attacked by a dragon. This is where my brain goes.
I love the way your brain works. You're painting a beautiful picture. I love it.
But imagine you looking out of your window saying, oh my gosh, the dragon is just missing a toe. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? Because he has to hop now and he can't run fast enough to get me.
Exactly. We're going to slowly take you out.
We're going to slowly take you out. I got my slingshot. Like, I think that people don't get what it's going to take to slay this demon. Sexual and gender-based violence is as old as the history of the world.
Time.
It is as old as time, right? We've been hearing about it since biblical times. And
yes.
So a hashtag is not going to erase that. That's not. And so I will say that the progress that we've made in the last 8 years after the hashtag is probably more than we would have done in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
It was an amplifier. It was a magnifier. It has made legible parts of a movement and work and systems that people didn't understand. This is why the whole like Epstein files being released. I think there were different reasons why people wanted it. I was wary of the survivors being used as pawns because we've seen it happen before, or the issue itself, not even just the survivors, but the issue being politicized to the point where it's that's what our politicians do on both sides of the aisle. Whatever's expedient for them, they move in that moment around the issue. But what was more important for me was that these files get released so that people can start looking at the picture of a thing that we've not really seen legible for most of us, right? We've not seen the inner workings of how this trafficking and violence, these systems of violence work. And people it needs to be normalized. It needs to be seen. And people need to dig into it and say, wait, why is the knee bone connected to the what? Yep. Oh, that is important. We need to continue to make legible these secrets and these systems that have upheld this kind of violence and continue these bastions of power that continue to perpetuate this violence.
And hurt women generation after generation, children. With that, are you, I mean, I'm worried, but I have to ask this. Are you worried where we're at right now with women's rights, body autonomy, survivors' protections? Everything is rolling back.
Sure.
All of this work, we're all doing. And for these men to just come in, like, how do you feel? How do you hold that?
Again, I sometimes sound like the different voice on this. I am obviously worried, right? Yeah. This is the safety strategy conversation again. It makes us much less safe when we lose these protections. Yes. It makes us more vulnerable to all of the things that are out there ready to prey on us as women. I'm just speaking about women and femmes and gender nonconforming queer folks in this moment who are like at the very, very end of the spectrum in terms of vulnerability. Yeah. So when my folks who are on the front line fighting, like we are, right? We're fighting around electoral politics, electoral justice to get these laws and policies changed because this is about safety.
Yes.
One of the biggest things that we're doing now as an organization is trying to organize survivors as a constituency. Yeah. Right. We did this campaign called Survivors Vote. And people were like, well, how does that relate to your work? Well, how it relates to my work? Oh, yeah, you wouldn't even imagine the questions we get. But it relates to our work because at any given moment, there are at least 52 million people in the United States who are survivors of sexual violence. At any given moment, right?
Yeah.
Different configurations, whatever. The lion's share of that is women. It's not just women, but the lion's share of that is. Imagine if people were to organize themselves along the lines of their survivorship. Not red or blue or purple, but I'm a survivor and I want to live in a community that is safe, and safety for me is more than just, the things that we normally hear about, that it includes this. That's an amount of power that lends itself to safety, right? And we have to keep thinking strategically like that. We have to try to codify as much power as we can in order to keep us safe in this moment. That's really the game for me. So when I hear about these rollbacks, I think about where can we build more power to fight against that.
Correct.
But I also know, again, to my point about sustainability, these things aren't sustainable. And we know better. And so there's some part of me that doesn't also want to operate, and this may get a little, whatever, but I try not to operate like somebody else has that kind of power over me.
Yes.
You can change the law. You can't change who I am as a person. You can't change how I operate and interact with other human beings, right? And so leaning into my humanity and trying to both organize and interact with people from a place of humanity, right? Like we that's why women's rights have to be thought of as a human rights issue.
Yes.
Right? You're not doing it just because, we got to look out for the women. No, we're all human beings. And we all have individual issues that affect us based on an identity, a demographic, or whatever. And so this is a human rights issue. When we lean into our humanity, it takes a different tone and different shape, and I think a different fight. So we have to shift laws and policies to keep us safe, for sure. We have to shift people to sustain that safety.
Yes, that part. So what does true accountability look like to you? And it's not, I don't mean just punishment, but like transformation. Because you talk a lot about this in the curriculum part of Me Too. That's what people don't understand. Yeah. And I hope the listeners know this. Like, there's a whole depth of what you do behind the Me Too, your teachings, the safety of which you help, these marginalized communities and young women. But it's not just about the punishment, but really it is about the transformation. And you talk a lot about empathy, and can you elaborate more on what true accountability looks like for you right now?
So I can talk about it from what it means for Tarana, but I say this all the time, that accountability is real. It's two things I say about accountability. The first is survivors have to define accountability for themselves, right? And we have to believe that people have enough, we have to believe in the power of survivors and the resilience of us to allow people to define what accountability means. So there is sort of the larger accountability. I think things like naming sexual violence as a social justice issue and a public health crisis for the country is important. That's an important type of accountability, because this country is so responsible for so much of the violence, right?
Yes.
So much of the systems, so many of the systems that uphold the violence. So, there needs accountability is in budgeting, like where the resources go.
Yes.
That when I'm thinking about large scale accountability, I'm thinking about how we spend our resources, who we elect, how we, that's the way that we show survivors. And we use the word survivors all the time, but these are just people. This is just your citizens, your neighbors, your classmates, your friends, your family. All of us so many of us are survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. And the lion's share of us are surviving in the very same places where we were harmed.
Yes.
And we are doing that, watching people not be active, not care, not proactive. And so to be accountable, it's not just from the individual person who caused harm. Like, I think that's part of we individualize sexual violence so much. So it's like, Tarana was harmed and XYZ harmed her, put him in jail or remove him from the community, get her some resources, everything's good. No. When one individual is harmed in your community, your whole community is harmed, right? If people would think about it the way we think about gun violence, right? If a child is shot in your community, we want to make sure that child gets a proper burial. We want to make sure that the person who committed that the harm to the child, who, the crime, is dealt with. But nobody just walks away from that. If a child is shot in a community, there's almost always a conversation about how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we keep our children safe? What were the failures that allowed this to happen? Right? These are the kind of conversations that happen from concerned citizens in their community when a child is harmed. when a child is sexually assaulted in a community, we don't have that same kind of response, right? We may, and this is not, again, an indictment of people. It's the way we've been socialized to think about the issue. We want to get support for the child. You want to get the perpetrator out, and then we want to keep silent.
Shh. It's always this.
It's always silent, and that's and that's if we believe the child, and if we support them, right? If we get the perpetrator, all of there's so many ifs around that. But what we do, regardless of either scenario, is silence, and we don't think about the harm that it has caused around us.
Everyone.
What were the failures that made this happen? What are the resources that are missing in this community, right? And so for me, to be accountable as citizens, as human beings, we have to be accountable for each other. We have to say, if one person in this community is harmed by this violence, we are all harmed and we are all responsible.
Yes.
Let's figure out how can I be accountable to this person who experienced this harm, right? Because as human beings who coexist and live, we have a little bit of responsibility for each other. And I don't think that we will.
That's
thrive.
Community.
That's community. And we won't thrive. We can come out of this situation we're in now, new administration, new day, everybody wake up. If we don't grasp that we have to care for each other, that we are deeply connected, and that our humanity is dependent on that, we will open ourselves up for another, whoever, whatever, right? And so I think about accountability from that standpoint. Who am I personally accountable for? How can I take whatever, in the smallest amount of responsibility I have for harm that's caused, and if I didn't physically do it, what do I need to do to be responsible for that? And I think that is a really important shift for us to think about. And I also think in a very sort of going back to the individual, we have to remember that sexual violence happens on a spectrum. And so accountability should happen on a spectrum.
Exactly.
Right? It is not, I think the idea that Me Too is a witch hunt and all the rest of that, because people were watching any level of accountability in real time and they hadn't seen it before.
Yes.
And so that's another mind shift that says, what do I deserve? When somebody has this experience, what is it that they deserve? They get to define it, but we need to figure out how to make it accessible to them.
Yes.
Even if it's just moving out the way.
Yes.
Even if it's just being quiet, right? Yeah. Not judging. There's always a piece that we can play in helping somebody get to accountability.
Yeah.
And I just want to say one last thing about that too.
Please.
It doesn't mean that we throw people away. There's accountability and has become synonymous with canceling and throwing away. It doesn't have to mean that, right? There's a way that there's some people who do need to be removed for a period of time. And I'm not saying that's prison or whatever, but in some way they have to be removed and it has to be repair.
Yeah.
We lose the repair part often because we're so focused on the removal. The repair may have to happen on both ends.
Oh, yes.
Right? We're not going to truly transform our society, and we're not going to have a world without sexual violence if we don't think about repair in a more holistic way. So, there's some things it's going to really ruffle some people's feathers about how we respond, and what accountability actually looks like. But it's necessary because we need a new dynamic. We need, as we build this new world that we want, if we want that world to be without sexual violence, and God knows I believe that is possible, we have to, our work in Me Too is revolving around a word that we use called solvability. Part of the reason I believe that sexual violence is bastardized as an issue around social justice is that people don't think it's solvable. It's a foregone conclusion, right? This is just a way of life. Everybody's going to deal with a little harassment. Everybody's going to deal with some people may have some, the violence. What can you do about it? Not true. Accountability to me is understanding that this is a solvable issue and then latching on and figuring out what is your piece of the puzzle to solve it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You're such a light to so many people. You really are. I have to ask this for someone who holds so much power in the way you move and the way you stand in the world and how you show up for people. Because you do bring hope and belonging and safety to so many of us. Who's bringing you hope right now? What woman is like grounding your life, perspective, legacy, work,
Oh man.
all of it?
Well, I will say the person who is high on that list doesn't identify as a woman.
Oh, okay, that's
but my
okay.
but my child, my daughter, who is non-binary, they are a big part of that. They keep me current. They keep me honest. They keep me learning. And they keep me motivated to have a different world. And my baby is grown, like 28, but still my baby.
Yes, always.
And I have two other bonus daughters, and they are so magnificent, all three of them in their own ways, that it makes me want to be not just better, but also like consistent.
Yeah.
A lot of the way people, the reason why people don't believe in folks and don't is because they're inconsistent.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you don't have off moments or bad moments or whatever, but for the most part, you are consistent. And I strive to be consistent and to be dutiful because of them. Certainly my mother and my grandma has passed, but my mother and my grandmother and my aunt, the women in my family are very strong.
Yeah.
And very protective. And they've taught me so much, and they keep me just wanting to be like them. And then I have my friends who are my chosen family, and my husband who keeps me soft, and makes sure that the world doesn't harden my heart. And
I love that.
Keep me laughing, keep me feeling safe. Yeah, that's how I sustain myself, really, is that group. And everybody has been around forever. So I trust, there's a lot of trust, a lot of love, and a lot of learning, right? There's some brilliant badass women out here, and a lot of them are my friends. So
Well, I just love it. You root yourself so much in truth and purpose. And I have to say thank you for you, because you serve others, and people have no idea the cost that brings to not only you wholly, but your family, your friends. You choose every single day, no matter how hard it gets, to do it over and over and over again. And we need people like you. And I hope for people listening and watching this, that they see and feel that light from you, and they choose to do something to serve their own community, no matter how big or small, because that's what we need right now.
Absolutely.
We need more people. Just like you said, I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, I don't do politics. I don't do this. I don't do. Well, you need to start doing it.
You do.
And you need to start being aware. You talk about structure and reframing things. This is an educational piece that, this is all of our problems.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't just the victims' problems.
Oh, no.
It's all of our problems.
Not only that, it doesn't matter what it is you're passionate about, right? There are people who are passionate about gun violence, people who are passionate about the environment, immigration, education, whatever issue that you are passionate about, I guarantee you sexual violence is inside of there.
Yeah.
Right? And so there is also a way that you don't have to, everybody's not going to be on the front lines of every issue, but know and understand that the work that we are doing is affecting everybody. It's not just survivors. It's so that they won't be new survivors. And that the thing that you care about if you care about gun violence, you care about sexual violence.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
You care about the environment, you care about sexual violence. Police brutality, I can run down the list. And so our issues aren't far apart. They are interwoven and interdependent in many ways. So yes, people need to get active. You need to, but again, I think people get scared of, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to go to a rally. You don't have to. You read a book, read an article, get yourself aligned in a way, because some of these people are going to be jurors, right? Some of these people are going to be in conversations and have in their sphere of influence. They're going to be the only voice of reason in that group. So it's get your mind together, right? Get your thinking in alignment, in a way that is going to be beneficial to the world. And that's your world, the world we live in together.
Yes.
So that's all. It's not, don't have to be hard. It really doesn't.
Well, Tarana, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Thank you for showing up and constantly giving us hope and letting us know that, like, we're in this together and we're not alone. It's not about just what you built. It's the way you show up, 10 toes down. And may we all keep clipping the toenails of dragons, babe, because we need it. That's what this podcast title is going to be called. We're going to keep clipping the toes of these damn dragons.
That's right.
Nail by nail.
That's right. Till we knock them down. That's right. Amen. That's
Amen.
right.
Thank you so much for being on Wide Open.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a great conversation.
Oh, thank you. And we'll see you all next week on Wide Open. What stays with me after this conversation is not just the magnitude of what Tarana Burke has built, but the care in which she continues to hold it. Me Too was never about punishment. It was about connection. It was about dignity. It was about letting people know they were not broken and never alone. Tarana reminds us that movements don't start in the spotlight. They start in community. They start in listening. They start with someone brave enough to say the truth, even when it costs them something. At a time when so many rights feel uncertain, her work is a reminder that progress is not linear, but it is possible, especially when we protect one another, tell our stories, and refuse to look away. If this episode moved you, challenged you, or made you feel seen, share it. Sit with it. Talk about it. And remember, healing is not loud, but it is powerful. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for staying wide open, and we'll see you next week.